Imagine waking up tomorrow with a mind that no longer feels pulled in 20 different directions. Imagine a version of yourself who sits down, begins working, and naturally slips into deep focus without the usual resistance, hesitation, or mental fog. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is the natural state of a brain that has been trained to work with itself, rather than constantly fighting against distraction. And in this video, we are going to rebuild your mind in a way that makes focus feel less like a battle and more like a rhythm. By the end of this guide, you will understand how the world's most focused people reshape their environments, their habits, and their inner world to unlock a level of clarity that almost feels unfair. But it isn't unfair. It's repeatable, predictable, and available to you. Focus is not something you lack. It is something that has been buried. Today, you learn how to uncover it. The first thing we need to address is a misconception that keeps millions of people trapped. People believe they struggle with focus because they aren't disciplined enough, or motivated enough, or organized enough. But the real reason is far more subtle. The modern world is designed to fill your mind with constant microscopic disruptions. A notification here, a small obligation there, a message waiting for a reply, a tiny decision you postponed. These fragments may seem harmless, but each one consumes a small piece of your cognitive capacity. Over time, your attention becomes fractured. You aren't unfocused because you're lazy. You're unfocused because your brain is overloaded. The real enemy of focus is not distraction itself, but the invisible buildup of unprocessed responsibilities, unresolved emotions, unnecessary commitments, and endless digital demands that your mind keeps track of even when you're not aware of it. Imagine trying to read a paragraph while someone whispers behind you. Then imagine trying to read that same paragraph while 100 people whisper at once. That is what most people call their normal mental environment. The good news is that once you understand this, you can begin clearing the mental space required for focus to return. And yes, focus is something that returns. It is your natural state once all the noise is removed. One of the most transformational shifts in building that environment is understanding that productivity is not built by adding more habits, more tools, or more tasks. It is built by subtracting. Most people fill their schedules with responsibilities they never questioned. They keep saying yes to things they don't value. They feel guilty for declining opportunities that don't serve their goals. They accumulate tasks like a closet accumulates old clothes, and eventually, there's no room left to move. Truly focused individuals operate differently. They protect their time, not because they are antisocial or rigid, but because they understand something powerful. Every yes steals energy from something far more important. When you eliminate the commitments that drain you, the projects that matter gain oxygen. When you remove the tasks you hate, the work you love becomes easier. When you distance yourself from people who exhaust you, your natural creativity rises without effort. You don't become more focused by forcing your mind to work harder. You become more focused by clearing everything that competes with the work that matters. Focus is less about strength and more about subtraction. But even after clearing the noise, many people still struggle because they wait for motivation to appear before starting. They believe focus is something that arrives magically when conditions are perfect. Yet the truth is that high performers don't wait for inspiration. They create cues that automatically pull them into the mindset they need. These cues are called triggers, and your brain is already full of them. Think about how you feel when you buckle your seatbelt in a car. Your body prepares to drive. Think about the sense of calm that comes when you hear a familiar melody from your childhood. Think about how your posture changes when you enter a gym. None of these reactions are conscious. They are conditioned. A trigger is simply a repeated association that trains your brain to shift states automatically. You can use this same mechanism to build a powerful focus trigger. It might be a specific chair where you only do deep work. It might be a particular soundscape or a short routine you perform before starting a task. Over time, your brain learns the pattern. When the cue appears, your attention tightens, your breathing slows, your awareness sharpens. What used to take 20 minutes of warming up can now happen in 20 seconds. You are not forcing yourself to focus. You are following a neurological path you created. This brings us to a concept that surprises many people. Sometimes the easiest way to start is to intentionally make things hard. Most people begin with simple tasks because they believe momentum comes from easing into the day. But that actually trains your brain to associate work with avoidance. When you start with something challenging, something that requires real presence, the mind enters a state of alertness that carries into everything that follows. Your confidence rises, your capacity expands, and the rest of your to-do list feels lighter, not heavier. Beginning with difficulty rewires your relationship with effort. It tells your brain that challenge is normal, not threatening. And once challenge becomes normal, focus stops feeling like a struggle. But even with better habits, the world is still full of interruptions. Many people underestimate how destructive constant reachability can be. Being reachable is not the same as being responsible. In fact, the more reachable you are, the less valuable your output becomes. Every time your phone lights up, every time a message pulls your attention for even 3 seconds, you are torn out of your mental rhythm. And research shows it takes over 20 minutes to recover your original depth of focus. This is why people who do extraordinary work are often extremely hard to reach. Not rude, not dismissive, but unavailable during the hours when their genius is being built. They know that creativity demands isolation. They know that deep thinking blooms in uninterrupted space. They know that no one else will protect their time if they do not, and so they create boundaries that seem unusual to others. They respond at specific times instead of constantly. They shut off notifications completely. They go to places where interruptions cannot touch them. They are not avoiding the world. They are reclaiming their mind. There is a principle worth understanding here. Scarcity increases value. When your attention is scarce, its value rises. When your availability is scarce, your focus sharpens. When your energy is scarce, you use it consciously. The moment you stop offering your attention to everyone, your life begins changing rapidly. Now, even with boundaries in place, there is a universal human truth. We perform differently under pressure. When there is no consequence for postponing a task, we tend to postpone it. When the timeline is vague, our urgency becomes vague. But when the timeline compresses, our creativity, decision-making, and focus all accelerate. This is not a flaw in human nature. It is a feature. The mind becomes sharper when the stakes rise. You can use this to your advantage. Shorten your timelines. Reduce the window in which tasks must be completed. Give yourself constraints that force precision. Without constraints, the brain wanders. With constraints, it concentrates. You don't need fear to motivate you. You only need clarity and a defined horizon. Your digital world also plays a role in shaping your mental environment. Every platform you use is built to capture your attention, and the algorithms behind them analyze your behavior to keep you hooked. Yet most people don't realize that the algorithm is not something happening to them. It is something they train. Every time you watch something, every time you comment, every time you linger on a post, you are voting for the future of your mind. You are programming what your digital world becomes. But you can reverse this if you engage only with content that uplifts you, teaches you, expands you, or challenges you in the right direction. Your online world will begin feeding you what you want to become. And once your inputs change, your outputs follow. Curate your digital environment intentionally, and your mind becomes intentionally curated as well. There is another hidden dimension of focus that few people talk about. For centuries, humans lived in predictable rhythms. Days were structured, seasons were patterned, routines were necessary. But today, without natural rhythms, most people live in constant cognitive fragmentation. They jump from task to task with no sense of continuity. But your brain loves continuity. It loves themes. It loves knowing what type of work belongs in which part of your day or week. When you give each day a theme, your mind stops wasting energy deciding what to do. When you batch similar tasks together, your brain stays in a single mental gear instead of shifting constantly. And when you organize your life around energy rather than time, you stop fighting yourself. There are hours of the day when your mind is sharp, curious, and powerful. And there are hours for rest, connection, or simple tasks. Aligning your schedule with these natural waves is one of the fastest ways to unlock sustainable focus. And here's something else. Motivation is overrated. Progress, not motivation, is the real fuel for focus. Humans are wired to crave improvement. When we see ourselves getting better, we become more engaged. When we track our wins, even tiny ones, the brain releases chemicals that reinforce the behavior. This is why video games are addicting. They make progress visible. Life rarely does. So your mission is to design a system where your progress becomes obvious. Track your streaks. Celebrate your milestones. Externalize your goals where you can see them. When progress becomes visible, distraction loses its power. Of course, none of this matters if your energy is depleted. Focus requires fuel. And that fuel comes from your physical habits. Movement, hydration, morning light, sleep consistency, and deliberate recovery are the pillars of a mind that can sustain attention. But beyond the biological is something deeper: emotional energy, the weight of unresolved worries. Unspoken frustrations and internal conflict drains more cognitive bandwidth than people realize. Sometimes the fastest way to restore focus is to address the thing you've been avoiding, because avoidance consumes far more energy than action. And now, we arrive at something essential: your flow state. Everyone has a unique neurological signature, a pattern of thinking, working, and creating that allows them to enter a mode where time seems to dissolve. In flow, your mind is not forcing itself to focus. It is naturally engaged. It feels effortless. It feels aligned. And the mistake most people make is believing that flow is something rare or accidental. Flow is simply the intersection of clarity, challenge, energy, and reduction of friction. And once you identify what conditions create flow for you, you can recreate them. The key is experimentation. Pay attention to what environments feel good. Notice which tasks energize you and which deplete you. Observe the times of day when your best ideas arrive. Reflect on the days when you felt unstoppable and ask yourself what variables contributed to that. Focus is not a rigid formula. It is a deeply personal ecosystem that evolves with your life. What worked for you 5 years ago may not work now. What works today may need adjustment a year from now. You are allowed to adapt. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to redesign the architecture of your days until your mind feels like a place where success comes naturally. The most important thing you must understand is that nothing about your ability to focus is fixed. You are not broken. You are not incapable. You are not doomed to a distracted existence. Your brain is plastic. Your habits are flexible. Your environment is malleable. And your potential is far greater than the version of you who is listening to this right now. Your future is shaped not by willpower, but by design. Not by intensity, but by consistency. Not by perfection, but by awareness. If you simply take the ideas from today and begin implementing even a few of them, your ability to focus will transform faster than you expect. And on the other side of that transformation is something profound. A life that feels intentional instead of reactive, meaningful instead of scattered, powerful instead of overwhelming. Your clearest self is waiting, and now you know how to reach it.